In Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, silence fell as a millionaire threw down a $100,000 bet, daring a black waitress to serve him in Chinese. Cameras turned. Laughter echoed. To him, it was entertainment. To her, it was the final insult after years of struggle and sacrifice. What no one knew, not even the smug tycoon in his leather chair, was that Jasmine Williams once lectured at Columbia, fluent in 9 languages. That night, humiliation became history, and a waitress prepared to teach the world what real power sounds like. But first, please make sure to subscribe the channel and comment below from which city you are watching this video. The Prestige Club in Manhattan glittered with wealth, a cathedral of arrogance where fortunes were decided between champagne refills. Jasmine Williams, 29, moved quietly through its marble halls, carrying trays heavier with pride than silver. Once, she was Dr. Jasmine Williams, a linguistics scholar admired in global universities, fluent in 9 languages, shaping young minds at Columbia. But when her mother suffered stroke, life collapsed like a house of cards. Medical bills drowned her future. Bankruptcy followed. The woman once applauded on academic stages now wiped tables for men who wouldn't meet her eyes. That night, she served a table of 4, 3 Japanese investors and Richard Blackwood, a 52-year-old real estate mogul famous for his money and infamous for his ego. Between fake laughter and vintage champagne, he tossed an obscene challenge onto her tray. "I'll give you $100,000 if you serve me in Chinese." The bills lay there like green insults, reflecting the chandelier's cold light. The entire restaurant turned into an arena of silent judgment. Every guest pretended not to look, but every ear waited for her reaction. Jasmine understood what this was, not a bet, but a performance of power. A rich man's theater of humiliation. Inside, her fingers clenched until her knuckles whitened. She thought of her mother's hospital room, of the sister she still supported, of the quiet dignity she refused to lose. She had already lost everything that money could take, but not the strength that knowledge had built. When she finally spoke, her voice didn't tremble. It carried the authority of every lecture she had ever given. "I accept." And just like that, the game began, one woman's quiet defiance against a room built to watch her fail. Richard leaned back in his chair, savoring his moment like a predator playing with its prey. The investors shifted uneasily, caught between fascination and discomfort. "My friends here," Richard said, gesturing at them, "will judge whether her Chinese sounds convincing." His tone dripped with condescension, each word a deliberate insult dressed in charm. Jasmine said nothing. Her tray still balanced the scattered bills, her entire world weighed in arrogance. Around her, the restaurant froze into silence. Waiters stopped mid-step. Conversations died, and every breath in the room waited for her to falter. Richard continued, now drunk on attention. "You see, gentlemen, this is a perfect example of misplaced confidence. These people," he said, waving toward Jasmine, "always believe they deserve more than they do." The investors exchanged uncomfortable glances. Even the eldest among them, Hiroshi Tanaka, looked away. But Jasmine stood still, her expression unreadable. Behind that calm exterior, memories surfaced, classrooms filled with eager students, the applause after a flawless lecture on tonal linguistics, the scent of chalk and knowledge. She remembered the day she received her PhD from Columbia. And then the day it all ended, her mother's stroke, the bills, the debt, the slow erosion of her name from the academic circles she once led. Richard clapped mockingly. "Tell me, sweetheart, do you even know how to say thank you in Chinese?" A murmur ran through the room. Jasmine's silence unnerved him. For the first time, his confidence cracked. He wanted her reaction, fear, anger, tears, anything. Instead, he got serenity. The kind that comes from knowing truth doesn't need to shout. "I accept all your conditions," Jasmine said finally, her tone smooth and measured. The words sliced through the noise like a scalpel. "If I fail, I'll apologize. But if I succeed, you will pay. Right here, in front of everyone." Richard's laughter filled the hall, but was forced. "Perfect," he said loudly. "Then let's make it more interesting. Bring the special menu, the Chinese one." The waiter hesitated. "Mr. Blackwood, that menu is complex." Richard smirked. "Exactly." Moments later, the leather-bound menu arrived, filled with intricate Mandarin descriptions of rare regional dishes, the kind of vocabulary only seasoned scholars would understand. Richard pushed it toward her like a weapon. "Go ahead. Explain 5 dishes in fluent Chinese, full detail. Or admit you're a fraud." The room buzzed with tension. Jasmine opened the menu, scanning its pages, and then her lips curved just slightly. It was a menu she knew. Years ago, she had studied its very dialects while researching the evolution of Chinese culinary linguistics at Beijing Foreign Studies University. Her professor once told her, if you can describe a dish with precision, you understand not just the language, but its soul. Looking up, she met Richard's smug gaze. "Would you like me to choose the dishes myself?" she asked softly. He smirked. "Choose any you want. It won't matter." But it did matter, because the room didn't yet know that the woman before them wasn't a broken waitress. She was a scholar whose knowledge had been buried beneath 3 years of quiet suffering, a scholar about to rise again. As the crowd leaned in, Jasmine took a slow breath. The room shimmered in tense silence. Somewhere between humiliation and hope, the air felt electric. The game Richard thought he controlled had just begun, and Jasmine was no longer playing by his rules. The waiter placed the menu before her. Every eye in the Prestige Club fixed on Jasmine, the waitress, about to face public humiliation. But the only sound that broke the tension was her calm inhale. She opened the menu and began to speak. What came out wasn't the hesitant imitation Richard expected. It was fluent melodic Mandarin, perfect in tone, rhythm, and academic precision. "Good evening, gentlemen," she began, her voice steady, confident. "Allow me to introduce tonight's special selection." Her pronunciation was so immaculate that Yuki Sato, the youngest investor, froze mid-breath. He was fluent himself, and yet he'd rarely heard Mandarin this refined, this deliberate. She continued, describing each dish with mastery. The balance of mala in Sichuan mapo tofu, the meticulous 24-hour marination of Beijing's Peking duck, the symbolism of 18 folds in Shanghai's Xiao Long Bao. Her tone moved effortlessly between technical detail and cultural depth, the kind of linguistic command only an expert could wield. The restaurant was silent. Even the clinking of glasses had stopped. Richard's smirk vanished, replaced by disbelief. Yuki whispered, This is doctoral-level Mandarin." Jasmine turned to Richard, and for the first time, smiled. "Would you prefer I continue in Beijing dialect, or perhaps Cantonese?" Then, without missing a beat, she switched languages, now speaking fluent Cantonese, explaining the same dish through Hong Kong culinary traditions. Every syllable flawless. Gasps echoed through the hall. Richard's hand gripped the tablecloth, as if steadying himself. "Who the hell are you?" he blurted, his voice cracking. Jasmine turned to him with the serenity of a storm that had already passed. "I am Dr. Jasmine Williams, Ph.D. in Computational Linguistics, Columbia University. Specialist in Chinese dialectology. Fluent in 9 languages." The words fell like thunder. The investor stared, stunned. Richard's face drained of color. Around them, silence gave way to whispers, admiration, awe, and the sound of a tyrant's power collapsing under truth. For the first time that night, Jasmine wasn't serving, she was teaching. And the lesson was clear. No amount of wealth could ever outweigh the brilliance of a mind once silenced by circumstance. The Prestige Club erupted in murmurs. Every face, from the waiters to the wealthy patrons, turned toward the man who had just been stripped of his arrogance in front of an entire room. Richard Blackwood sat frozen, his hand trembling as Jasmine's words lingered in the air like a verdict. The investors, once silent, now looked at him with disgust. "You just tried to humiliate one of the most brilliant academics I've ever met," Yuki said coldly. "We don't do business with people like you." The deal Richard had been boasting about, a $200 million partnership, vanished in that single moment. He stumbled over excuses, but the damage was irreversible. Jasmine stood firm, not out of vengeance, but dignity. "Mr. Blackwood," she said softly, "your $200,000, please." His hands shook as he counted each bill. Every note he placed on the table seemed to peel away a layer of his pride. When he finished, she looked him straight in the eyes. "Now apologize. Not to me, to everyone who has ever endured your prejudice." The room went still. Richard's voice cracked. "I'm sorry." Louder. "I'm sorry," he shouted, the sound echoing across the marble floor. It was over. The tyrant had fallen, not through anger or violence, but through knowledge and grace. Jasmine had reclaimed what life tried to take from her: respect, identity, and power. 6 months later, she stood in a high-rise office overlooking Manhattan's skyline. Now director of intercultural relations at Tanaka Yamamoto International, earning $180,000 a year, she had rebuilt her life from the ashes. Her mother received the best care. Her dignity was no longer for sale. Meanwhile, Richard Blackwood's empire crumbled. Investors pulled out, banks withdrew support, and the viral video titled "Racist Tycoon Destroyed by Dr. Waitress" spread across the internet. His wealth, reputation, and family all slipped away, leaving only regret. Back at Columbia University, Jasmine spoke to a class of students, her voice calm and radiant. "He tried to silence me with money," she said. "But intelligence can't be bought, and dignity can't be taken." The audience rose in applause, many with tears in their eyes. Then she ended simply, "They may underestimate us, but our brilliance always speaks louder than their prejudice."